bannaffe ab'NRM okubanga basazeewo okuteekawo ekifaananyi nti bali mu campaign abamu nga bagamba nti Gen. Museveni akomawo, omulala mutabani we ajja. Njala kutegeeza bannayuganda nti ensonga eyo tugigoberera, tugitegeera era nnyangu nnyo okutegeera. Ensonga ya kutimba bbula bannayuganda abanoonya obuweereza obutalabika. Ensonga ya kutimba bbula bannayuganda balandika okuteesa ku ekyo nga Mwami Museveni ali mu buyinza, nga mu ddwaliro tewali ddagala, ng'abantu balinayo bayite amakubo mafu, nga bali mu kutyobola eddembe ly'obuntu n'okubuzaawo bannayuganda. Ekyo baagala kuteekawo mbeera ya kutimba bannayuganda bbula babeere ku ekyo. Kaakati oyinza otya okugamba nti omwana agwa weekly tests bamupromoting ng'omwaka tegunakuggwako. Buli weekly test afuna 9 ate oleeta olukiiko lw'abasomesa lumuwe promotion mu mwaka wakati, oba oli mu kubuzaabuza bayizi banne n'abasomesa. So okukubuzaabuza kiriwo ekyanaggwa n'ekikoleddwa mu mwaka gumu ekirowoozesa omuntu nti mu bwangu nnyo ayangwe n'okwengalayo yeeyongereyo. Ali mu mboozi eyo ate okubanga yeetaaga obujjanjabi ku mutwe. Embeera ey'embalirira gye njogeddeko nti ebyenfuna by'eggwanga biri mu mbeera ya katuubagiro, era twawa amagezi ku ntandikwa y'omwaka gw'ebyensimbi guno nti embalirira y'eggwanga yakolebwa wakati mu kibuguumirize watali kwefumiitiriza. Ekimu ku byo nti mulimu ensimbi nnyingi nnyo eziri awo nagalaale nga tezaateekebwa ku bintu biyamba munnayuganda. Ekimu ku byo ze ensimbi ennyingi eziri maka g'obwa pulezidenti ez'okugaba n'ebitongole ebingi owali ensimbi ennyingi ez'okunywa buukyayi. Bwe tuba n'obudde netula mu kiwandiiko kya opposition kye twawa ekya budget twalistinga ebintu ebyo era nituwa n'okulabula nti bino bijja kubaawo. N'olwekyo obulanzi bwaffe butuukiridde nti ensimbi tewaali nakati tewali era tezijja kubaawo. So ayina amatu awulire ng'omuntu yenna gy'ali, ali mu bizinensi, bw'oba oli ssemaka oli mulimi, okutegeera nti ebyensimbi tebijja kutereera nti binaakwongera kwonooneka. So bisobola bwongezi kwonooneka mu mbeera eri okubanga tewaliwo kikolebwa kyasimba kiraga nti ebyensimbi binaatereera. Bw'obanga omanyi ekyokukola mu ngeri y'okutereeza ebyenfuna, tewali musango gavumenti kuddayo netula mu mbalire eyayisibwa mu mbeera ey'ekiwuggwe nejjulula ebintu ebimu n'ebijjako n'esosowaza ebyo ebirina okukolebwa mu mbeera ey'akatuubagiro. Honorable Kyagulanyi yategeeza bannamawulire nti ekiseera si kyakwogera nnyo ku okise ki ku policies naki nga bawamba bannayuganda. Kituufu nti ensonga y'okuwamba bannayuganda nkulu era erina okubeera ku mumwa gwa buli muntu. Ndowooza ye tagamba nti tebyogerwako. Sirabawo nnyo kinene naye okugamba obugambi nti ensonga ye yasimba nti ekyokuwamba bannayuganda, kubanga abantu abawambibwa ne b'oteekateeka ebyenfuna oba biteekateeka kukola ntaana zaabwe nga za mabo. So n'olwekyo okuwamba bannayuganda n'okutyobola eddembe ly'obuntu y'ensonga esookerwako. Twaliwo omufanyumya lutabaalo. So okulaba nti bannayuganda bali mirembe kijja okutereeza ebyenfuna n'okuzza emitima gy'abantu okutegeera nti no ggwanga lyabwe balikolerere, balirwanirire, balifiiririre. Naye tewali muntu agenda kufiiririra bannabyabufuzi baagala kwekomya nsi nti agere ku makyawo omusolo ng'awa omusolo ye n'Omuseveni ne mutabani we basobole buli omu okusikira munne mu ngeri y'okuwaanyisa. Ekyo kisoboka. Waliwo bannayuganda abalowooza nti boycotting parliament era bye bamu abatugamba nti ogere ku nsonga zaabwe. Ndowooza waliwo aleka ekikyamu mu perspective. Naye endowooza y'abannayuganda tugiwa ekitiibwa. Kyenyinza okugamba nti ndowooza yakwekyawa abantu balina bye bandyagadde bikolebwe paalamenti yaabwe nga tennabayi kubikola. Kyenayogeddeko nti paalamenti erina okwerwanako okulinnyisa omutindo gwayo mu nkola y'emirimu n'okusoosowaza ebikolebwa. Ku luuyi olwange tulwana n'embeera ey'okulaba nti tusoosowaza ebyo tulowooza nti bikulu, twawula ensonga n'obusonga. Naye singa olondoola abo bagamba nti mboyikotinge paalamenti, singa ogamba n'omujja ku mutwe n'otegeera entumbwe ze, ogenda okumwetegereza nga y'omu ku abo abaagala tuveemu bayiseyo bye baagala biyite. Sina muntu gwe ntwalanga kitono, ogenda okuwetegereza nti ani ono, ogenda okumwetegereza okumwetooloola nga kye kiguruupu ekyagala tuveewo bakole bye baagala okukola ki okukola. So tumanyi bulungi ekigenda mu maaso, tuli ddoboozi ly'abantu ku nsonga zonna. Susan akyagala okwebuuza nti tulowooza ki ku nsonga z'abalowoozaake. Oli mwannyina? Onalowoozaake muntu, onalowoozaake ayise mu mbeera ey'okukyulugunyizibwa, si mulundi gumu si mulundi ebiri, mutwalanga victim, si mutwalanga culprit. Mutwalanga omuntu eddoboozi lye eryetaaga okulinnyisibwa so si okutyoboolebwa. Okusoomoza kwayitamu bannayuganda bangi bakuyiseemu. Ng'omukulembeze we bw'aba ayita mu byayitamu, buvunaanyizibwa okumutaasa mu mbeera emujjira, asunguwala ng'omuntu yenna yali atuusiddwako obutali bwenkanya. Engeri gy'akikolamu ekyo tekirina bwe bakiwandiika nti alina kikola bw'ati. Ekimu ku birowoozebwa nti abakola ku bannayuganda ebikolwa bagana okubawa amagezi engeri gye baba bawakanyamu. Ekyo ate kipya gye ndi. Naye kye mmanyi nti onobozaake muntu ategeera, afuna obulumi ku bintu bingi. Enkola gye tukolamu situna bwe twagiwandiika nti when you people okutuuka wano okola bw'oti, kyayina ekimukakatikako kiri kimu kyokka nti amanyi engeri gye tukolamu ebintu mu paalamenti. Wababeerawo embeera yonna ez'obubi, sipiika n'awaako ebiragiro by'ayita, era tuli bakulembeze mu paalamenti, tulimba nga bagenyi, tujja gikwata nga bakulembeze. You're aware that the Speaker of the House adjourned the House sine die on Tuesday, meaning that members were in effect sent into a Christmas holiday. No doubt it's been a very challenging year within and without Parliament. We all know that the height of this year has been the growing human rights violations that have even, for some reason, made people forget the very difficult economic dire straits that the country is going through. So I would like to thank the media for being out all the time in highlighting the gross human rights violations that the regime has chosen as a path of settling political disagreements. You are all alive to the history of this country, and the people had belief that the regime that came to power on account of past human rights violations would not do the same. Now we know that actually they never meant what they said more than 30 years ago. You are aware that up to now, the government has never responded, or has actually failed to respond to the so many questions we have raised in Parliament and outside the Parliament about the disappearance of citizens, the violation of their rights, the killings on the streets. And as you are aware, even this week, at the prompting of the Deputy Speaker, the Prime Minister promised to come and make an account by way of comparing what we are questioning and what they know. And the last meeting was supposed to take place yesterday in the Deputy Speaker's chambers. None of the persons turned up for that meeting. myself and my team, that included my Shadow Minister for Internal Affairs, including the NUP party spokesperson, Honorable Senyonyi, Honorable Mwanga Chivumbi, Honorable Segona. We are all ready for the meeting. We waited. Nobody showed up. Nobody picked their calls. And if, on our side, we are moving to the next level. We have asked our attorneys to file habeas corpus for the 25 missing persons we logged in Parliament. Probably for those of you without the list, I've asked my team to share the list of the 25 for your information. They include even the dates and places where they were picked from. They are still missing. So the Prime Minister lied to the country that is going to explain. So yesterday, she disappeared, never showed up, made no phone call, made no contact. So after we have filed the habeas corpus for each of them, depending on how long this takes, we shall be able to inform the country officially that these be added on the list of the murdered and buried without trace. We have already secured habeas corpus for Chibalama John Bosco, who was abducted from Kanyanya on Gaza Road on 3rd June 2019. We have also secured for Kanata Muhammad, who was abducted on 23rd December 2020 from his home in Walusubi Mukono district. The two habeas corpus have been secured for them. And we are now waiting for the response of the agencies on which they have been served to respond. And when, depending on how they respond, we shall be able to inform the country the status of these citizens. But the country should be alarmed by the stance of the Prime Minister and her team, that they could lie to the country and instead they disappear and even have their phones off. That is the caliber of leaders that want to impress upon that they have the audacity to be called leaders in this country. So we at that stage. Secondly, you're also aware that the two honorable members of Parliament, the Honorable Segirinya Mohammed, Member of Parliament for Kawempe North, and the Honorable Alan Sowanyana, Member of Parliament for Makindi West, are still in custody. Of course, we are aware that they are within the process of court, but we are concerned about the inordinate delay in having their matter handled by courts. Would not take the delay as a delayed legal process. We consider the delay as politically motivated, and we still construe their detention not as a matter of any involvement in illegality, but as a case of political persecution. We want to impress upon the judiciary to prove that they are not part of the persecution of these honorable members of Parliament. We would like to ask their constituents to remain firm, to support these members until justice prevails in their case. Thirdly and relatedly, I would like to respond to the issues relating to security and abductions that the Honorable Minister of Internal Affairs, General Kahindo Tafire, spoke about in the manner he did, including a reference to the opposition as lying to the world that people have been abducted, brutalized, tortured, and maimed. First of all, at his age, I don't think he's senile. My sense is that he is still sober, but a dishonest adult. And it's dangerous for a dishonest man to be in occupation of public office, and especially discharging a duty of securing citizens. You are aware that he referred to a number of people that appeared in the public media in Nairobi at the exposure of human rights violations that we had with the Kenyan Human Rights Commission. And he said these people we paraded were victims of a number of accidents. Now, this old man was not kind enough to share with the country, with the world, the reports of these accidents and the scenes on which they occurred. Let's take an example. In February 2020, Rita Nabukenya was knocked dead at Nakawa by a truck, registration number UP 4841. That's not a private number plate. It's a police number plate. Him being the Minister of Internal Affairs, let him give us the accident report in which Rita Nabukenya was deliberately knocked on the pavement and killed. 2, Frank Senteza Kalibala was overrun by a military truck, registration number H4DF 2382 at Busega on 27th December 2020. Will the Honorable Otafire read to the country the nature, form of that accident? We'll be eager to share in that. 3, earlier in July 2016, a truck registration number UP 4832 knocked a couple of Ugandans who were standing by the roadside at Kalere. There was also truck UP 4916 that had men donning police uniform, police and army uniform, that were initially beating people on that very day. This honorable gentleman and elder would be fair enough to share with the country, with the media, these accident reports. 4, there's the infamous truck 17, registration number UP 5564, that is implicated in the atrocities of November 18th to 19th, 2020 in Kampala. Will the General Tafire share with the country where that truck is, its drivers and occupants then, so that we can understand his perspective of accidents so far? So, countrymen and women, we are talking about human rights. And for General Tafire and his accomplices, they are not going to educate us on how to oppose their activities. It's not their space to advise us on how to oppose their atrocities and violations. That's not their space. Let him defend his atrocities and that of his regime by way of offering a perspective and an explanation as how this happened. Another example, we have your own Ali Mivule and Kashiri Ashraf, you remember Kashiri, that were shot by a one Enoch Abaine, former RPC of Greater Masaka. Where is that criminal? Will you Tafire tell us where that criminal is holed up? A one Enoch Abaine. Remember that same criminal entered my home in Masaka and cut my car tires, 2 vehicles, and cut 6 tires from my compound. That same criminal. Is he in prison? So if these leaders think that we are stupid, they should know we have a record of whoever is doing what. Last on this, I want to challenge the commanders of the SFC structure to explain the activities of a one Lieutenant Colonel Ashraf Nyakairo. What does he do in the SFC? What is the job of the group he commands? A one Arafat Nyakairo. What does he do in the SFC? What is the job of that group he commands? I want to inform them that you can kill us, you cannot kill the information we have. It's everywhere. We shall share it until the last person. I would like to ask of Ugandans to share information about every other violation that you are aware of. Please remember that last year, at the beginning of this year, I issued black books in which a lot of information has been availed about human rights violations in this country. You're also aware that at the beginning of this month, my offices in Masaka were broken into, and their targets were these books and the files and the computers. I want to advise whoever took those computers that the information is in the space. So go and burn them. They're useless to you. I still have all the information. So even if you cut off my fingers, the information can be accessed by other people. So that was an activity in futility. You probably were sharing whatever you knew. You know whom you have killed. You know whom you have abducted. So what do you want the information for? So what you know, we know. That's what I want to tell you. Relatedly, allow me to speak about the second issue relating to insecurity in the country. Aware that government communicated the closure of a number of police posts, especially in Buganda. And the explanation was that these police posts were inadequately manned and were poorly facilitated to be able to defend themselves in the face of an attack. Now, from our humble side, we want to inform the regime that your explanations are not satisfying. We continue to see attacks on security installations. We saw one was in Butambala, Kamengo in particular. And the explanations that are coming out are not satisfying. The country asks for, demands for more, because we believe you know better what is going on, given your history. You have explained to us variously how you've been working, disguising. Please explain more. We haven't understood your explanation as to the nature and the cause of insecurity so far. I think I'll end that there. The third issue I would like to speak about is the state of the economy. At the beginning of the financial year, you are aware that we warned that the regime was ambitious and blind to the realities. We warned that a post-COVID economy would require delicate handling, and that the priorities of the country should have some level of serious imagination. Our advice was never heeded, and where we are, we all know that the Ministry of Finance supplies air to MDAs. They supply them with documents that they have been given money, and then the money is not in the accounts. You understand now the kind of insensate, despite borrowing, to a country already saddled in a huge debt. We even advised that it was not late to revise the budget, an ambitious blind budget that was passed by Parliament. And our advisory is on record that given our tax base, given the nature of the economy, which we are net importers, our budget was blindly ambitious. We're all aware that so many small businesses are collapsing and so many people are losing jobs. It's a no-brainer because there's no more deep thinking as to how to manage the economy. Of course, we can't expect any better because we have all our priorities wrong. We want to again offer humble advice, that the regime should eat humble pie and rethink the national financing priorities, including sourcing financing. You should have seen a circular issued by the Minister of Finance, almost calling on whoever can lend Uganda, including sweet money lenders, to come and lend. You cannot run an economy like that. You cannot run an economy like a kiosk. I think Mr. Kasaija and his group have failed, but their failure is buttressed on failed politics. Failed politics yields failed economies. The two rest in the same bed. So we do not see a remedy out of this. So Ugandans should brace themselves for even harder times, because there's nothing going on to give people hope that next year will be any better. We all know that the PDM was a stillbirth. Every newspaper every week has money from the PDM being released, but that money has never reached. Probably somebody is taking it on foot. I hope it was not given the Prime Minister on her mobile phone to again send to another, border man who is non-existent. So the PDM was a stillbirth, and all you there expecting money from the PDM, please go and think anew. There's no money. The PDM is there on paper. If you want paper, please come for it at finance. There's no money, because the priorities of the regime are not about you. I have seen regime fixers trying to blame cows, town clerks over the PDM. But every month, the guidelines change because they want to postpone, to make the world believe that actually for them they are ready, but the people were not ready. So the planning get a new meaning. So now that the PDM is a no-show, it's a pipe dream, let citizens think on how to get themselves out of their straits, but are aware that this regime, after so many years, is tired, and so is their thinking and planning. The follow-up meeting was a no-show because the Prime Minister played a disappearing act and did not make any feedback, including my friend, the government chief whip, was a no-show. So it never took place, which is why I said that in the face of the no-show by these regime honchos, we are going ahead to file habeas corpus for the 25 missing persons. And I've also stated that we have already obtained 2 for Iwanu Kanata Mohammed and Chibalama John Bosco. That was what I said, and it was your question. About the position of Honorable Zake as a commissioner, Honorable Zake appealed the decision of Parliament. And when somebody appeals, there's no reason why anybody would replace them. It's only sensible and reasonable and prudent that is given a chance to challenge a matter in which he thinks there were gross violations of his rights. And as a lawyer, I have no reason to advise my party to do otherwise. It's only common sense that the court process is given time, and then the party will take a decision. That's what I can say. Related to what Mr. Kajubi asked about the car, my sense is that all these matters shall be handled when the court matter is properly handled and finalized. So I find it a very small matter that should not cause ulcers to anyone. We can only implore a court to expedite this matter so that all sides get a sense of justice. On the IGG reports, Mr. Segirinya, yes, these reports were sent in the park. if you recollect. We can only respond after the PAC reports have come on the floor of Parliament. And then we shall follow up with the action taken on these reports. Okay? So we cannot be speculative. But also let me remind the country that you're also aware that in the last financial year, the IMF gave this country a loan of $1 billion. And they released the first tranche. They have not released the second tranche. And one of the reasons given is that they are suspicious of our sense of accountability. So all these matters remain in perspective. But if you want to know that these are very serious matters to which so many stakeholders are concerned, get to know that we haven't received our second tranche. It probably partly explains the reason why the regime has no money to spend on a number of planned activities. Mr. Kajubi, on the issue of the Honorable Namuganza, we are students of Napoleon Bonaparte. When you see your enemy making mistakes, don't interrupt. Okay? So, but I can tell you, we are very interested in a matter where the Honorable Namuganza was found by a committee of parliament for having dipped her fingers in the cookie jar in matters relating to Naguru land. So we are following those matters with interest. And as long as she remains a person believing that she's above the law, we are interested. And therefore, there is no legal bar to any of our members to keenly follow and interest themselves in matters that will put her in the right shape. Leakage of reports of PAC. I received the Speaker's complaint. I think these matters are administrative between my office and the office of the Speaker. They are not sparring matters. They are not adversarial in nature, to which I am proving a case before Parliament. Allow them to abate in the way they will be managed administratively. Because you are alive to the fact that when reports are finalized by the committee, the first point of destination is the clerk's office. In fact, the law only accesses them once they are uploaded. So I think they are best handled administratively, and between the two offices, a remedy shall be established. But I asked them to say that the final remedy would be in having these reports presented to Parliament as soon as they are finalized. It is the final remedy that we need to have. Then
Moses on budget.
Moses on the budget. Moses, we can speak about these matters until the chickens come home. But I can state that one of the biggest challenges in our budget is the cost of public administration. That's why I talked about our sense of priorities as a country. Public administration involves so many areas that for me constitute negatory expenditure on the part of government. And I would rather have that money do other things. Have you ever imagined the expenditure at State House? You know? I think this expenditure is not just obscene, but it stinks. It's part of the bloated public administration. We can look at so many areas, but it's a question of cascading, postponing. Some of the programs and projects can be multi-year, but the problem is that our planners have since gone to sleep. And everybody is excited to do something very fast, when actually it's not possible. So I'm talking about cutting down public expenditure. Public expenditure does not leave out certain costs at Parliament. Okay? So it's a question of leaders sitting down to say, this is the national budget. What are the national priorities? What are the immediate needs of our people? Okay? Okay, so I don't have enough time to break down every sector, every MDA, for us to look at these negatory expenditures. But when you look at our budget perspective, you'll get to understand that we offered these options, including cutting down on a number of these expenditures. Mumbeja, what happened to the changes we made? Yes, we made the changes. The changes were announced by the Chief Opposition Whip on the floor of Parliament. The Speaker, in her view, asked that we should leave the Honorable Muhoozi to finalize the reports he was working on. Thank heavens the session has ended. So we expect the new chairperson to start his work in the new session.